Hey everybody, welcome to my
Hey
chat.
guys, this is Girk's topic tonight, so you can either blame him
Where the white
or
women at?
congratulate him, whichever one happens. But we'll do a quick introduction here, and we'll get to the topic after that. We got, as I see them, B Girk, Tactical Six String,
You know,
Just Dan. No, no, wait a second. G-Web, sorry, you both had tennis racket covers up before.
I brought my kitten and a handful of marshmallows, so I'm ready for the chat.
Yeah, you're ready. So we got G-Webs. Then we have Edge.
so where the white women at?
Then Just Dano.
Hey.
Stone Guy 223.
Hey.
And of course me. And Kirk, go ahead and ask that question. We'll start it off that way. You had a question.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You smoking that ganja again?
How about, what if you found scented candles?
Well, why don't you ask one of us the question if you don't want to ask it outright?
No, I'm gonna ask you. Okay, this is my question.
Stop being
What
such
if
a
you were
little
like-
girl.
Shit, I ain't no bitch. But how about you're walking down the street or something like that, whatever you're out and about, and you happen to find a gun. You know, laying on the ground. You know, you come across a gun. What would you do? What is your next course of action? What would you do? Why? I want you guys to go into detail and maybe explain the situation. Maybe any type of repercussions for the actions that you take.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, real quick.
What we should do is at least to left or right, Stone Guy, or right to left. We should go this way, actually. So
I'm going into detail and explaining. That's get some good get some
we'll
good
start
thoughts.
with our former law enforcement officer here.
Yeah,
Emphasize former.
you definitely need to turn that in as soon as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. No, what would you do?
Oh, I would turn it in. I mean, ASAP. You don't know where that gun came from. You don't know, what's tied to it. I mean, there's nothing good that's ever going to come out of keeping something you find on the street.
Saving a couple $100 to get 20 years ain't worth it.
Exactly.
How about if it was a Colt Python and you threw it in your safe for 40 years and then you just pulled it out and sold it for 10 grand?
I mean, that's hypothetical, but I mean, there is a way to check to see if a gun is reported stolen or been used in a crime. Your local law enforcement agency will facilitate that check for you.
Could you keep it if it's not claimed and it's clean after like 90 days? And you run an ad in the paper? I know that sounds weird. That's how you do it, right? Like if you find a wallet, you turn it in, and then you run an ad in the paper, and like after 90 days or something, it's yours, correct?
Yeah, I think you'd still have to get
Burn all the
it
credentials.
transferred to you through an FFL. But yeah, you could definitely do that.
I don't think so. I just chime in here that I don't know if any of you guys have experienced this, but I know people that have found firearms. They weren't walking along. They found them in their backyard. So somebody tossed it over the fence. And it was, like you say, somebody who took it to the police department that thought there was no other option, which there may or may not be. They took it to the police, though. They kept it for an amount of time, and then they gave it back to them. Because they can't keep it. We definitely don't have a government set up so that they can just keep stuff that they feel like keeping.
Right.
They get rid of it. So they just they give it back, just like you said. If it was you found a wallet or if you found something. So I know you can get it back, at least in some jurisdictions, I think, because that was here in Tucson.
Oh, that's cool.
Showcase.
What was that, Dan?
With no paperwork, huh?
Honestly, I don't remember, but he didn't. He would have asked me. I'm assuming he would have asked me more about it, like what's an FFL, because they're asking me to do that. I'm pretty sure they just handed it back to him. It's just a thing, but I don't want to guarantee.
It's not like you're buying it.
Right.
You're just claiming it if it's in your state,
We don't have registration.
Yeah, right. So technically, it hasn't changed hands.
I don't know if it's directly related, but my brother was being a douchebag to a cop one time, and the cop confiscated his USP. and he didn't have to do any kind of transfer or anything at any point to get it back or anything. So they just kind of take. They're a law enforcement agency. They just kind of take possession of it. They don't need to be an FFL.
There you go. I think that's the correct word. They can take possession because since they're not an entity like we are, according to the government or whatever, it's not transferring ownership. It's just they've taken possession of it and they relinquish possession.
Yeah.
Exactly. It would be just like, if I let G-Web borrow one of my guns to go to the range, we don't have to go through an FFL for him to use my gun.
Well, don't use me as an
totally
example because it would depend on where our residences are. But yeah, it's like if you let me borrow your car or something that isn't regulated. Yeah. But I think that even if there wasn't a law, like if I found this out in the woods, right? I'm out hunting or something and I find a rifle, because that could actually happen, right? And trust me, I mean, I don't know if you guys have, but people will lay down a rifle to do whatever, get the call from the wife, and then find out they got to get home because the kid's sick or something. Next thing you know, your rifle's out in the woods and you don't exactly remember where it was. So let's say you're walking around, you find a nice rifle. I just wouldn't feel right just walking home and putting that in the safe. I would, like you guys said, I would want to put an ad in the local newspaper, whatever town was close by, and then maybe even talk on a couple of forums, like, hey, if you can identify this, it's yours. But after a certain amount of time, yeah, I mean, it was meant to be. I found a new rifle, right?
Yeah, God wanted you to have it. That's what Ray said in the chat.
Now, here's a question that's kind of similar to that one too. There's a rifle up in the woods around here that's grown into a tree, like an old musket, like Civil War era musket, and it's like grown into the side of a tree. And as soon as the wrong douchebag finds it, he's going to cut it out of there.
Well, that's probably from Biker Bob, because he said he came down to Arizona when he was younger.
Right.
I'm just assuming.
Yeah, he was fighting. But yeah, I don't know. I've seriously tempted a couple times to get that and give it a good home or give it to a museum or something, so it doesn't just get taken by some dude who cuts the tree down.
Well, if you remember, well, next time I'm up there, I'd definitely like to take a look at that. Is it shootable? Can you shoot it from the tree?
Yeah, no.
And then what is it aimed at?
Exactly, that'd be awesome. Then we can get a video of a tree shooting something.
No, you can just, it's like you said, somebody just leaned their rifle up against the tree and got something else more important popped up.
And
something like
years
that.
Later.
Who knows what the story is? Maybe more important something was getting shot at or something.
Exactly. Because this was back in the settlers and Indian fighting times, and it was way back when. So, and that's actually a common thing in this area. There was a lot of Indian fighting going on. They tried to dig a train tunnel here, and the Indians killed enough of them that they just gave up on it and left it. Station killer, huh?
Well, poorly run chat, I suppose you could say.
I scalped a man once.
He probably read the Edge guide to run it in a chat. He's probably distracted because he's looking at something.
So nobody in here.
Actually, I'm trying to find out if there's any specific laws in Wisconsin what to do.
If I was any good on TV to watch.
Nobody walked down the street and found that titanium Nemo Arms AR-15 that's worth like $100,000. We just keep it.
So you're trying to see at what level of greed would we bend our morals?
Yes, basically.
Well, then just get straight to it. How greedy bastards are we?
Exactly. So you're telling me nobody in here is gonna pick that high point up and just put it in their back pocket and go home?
Why would I want it?
I wouldn't, for one reason, and not just being friend of other people or whatever, or worried about what other the person that might have lost it. I'd be concerned if it was used in a crime that victim might need the evidence. I just wouldn't be able to live with myself if there was a crime that got committed and my greed let a victim suffer.
Exactly. I mean, there's the external ethic of the possible victim, and then there's the internal, which there was a very old saying. I don't know if it was in the 70s or 80s, but don't do the crime unless you can do the time. And again, that comes down to, are you willing to trade 20 years of your life for whatever you think that's worth? The answer is no, not me.
Well,
I mean, I'm 50 years old. At 70-something.
Well, it's not like you committed the crime. You just didn't turn it in. That's the only crime you're guilty of.
Wasn't that dog who did that commercial?
A moral
crime
thing.
Yeah,
I don't know if they call it a crime, but it would be a moral douchebaggery to just
right.
Yeah, but
suffer.
when you know that guns just don't grow out of asphalt, and that they require legally a certain amount of physical security. You just can't leave it out on your front step unattended, let alone left in a public space where children could get it or somebody else.
Oh, but all right, but we're talking about we've added some we're adding some assumptions there. What if it was just a kid who grabbed a gun out of his dad's safe or something or whatever, drawer, took it to the park to show his friend, and then they got scared and left it there, or whatever happened. They saw the ice cream truck. I mean, all kinds of weird things can happen. Or the lady brings it to some place and she's not used to it, and it falls out of her purse and she just doesn't realize. I mean, I can come up with all kinds of scenarios that are, it's not intended to leave it for kids to get at it. It just happened.
It's a variation of what's called a lie by omission. It's kind of like a crime by omission, although it may not legally be a crime where you live. That nobody did anything intentionally, but by you doing nothing doesn't make it all perfectly clean either. Except being the benefactor of someone else's mistake.
All right, so then what if it's a rusty old gun that's obviously, like Huck is talking about, you're digging or something, or you open up a box or something that you find underneath a tree, and it's an obvious decades old, never been touched for a long time type of gun. Does that change your minds?
Well,
time capsule.
Due to it might possibly be evidence or something like that of a crime. No. But then again, when it comes to ethical things like that, I tend to view things very black and white, because it's too easy to get mired down in the gray.
Well, it's all theoretical, though, so I'm going to actually change my mind. I think if I find an old rusty one, it's not like they're going to get DNA off of that. They're not going to get anything from barreling, from the rifling or the barrel or anything. So, that's just a cool old gun I found. Huh?
Statute of limitations would be up.
Oh, that's a good point, too. But then again, I mean, even if I was... I don't really care about the person going to jail as much as just the peace of mind of the victim, potentially. But again, if it's something that you find in a box underneath the tree, you're going to go take that to the police. What's the odds that they know about to look for that, and what are they going to equate it with? That is literally just going to go into some evidence locker and never be seen again, right?
Well, that's not necessarily true, because we already talked about how you might be able to make a claim upon that after X amount of days, depending on your jurisdiction.
Well, I guess that makes sense. So I don't think I'd be as interested in getting it to the cops if it was an old rusty thing. Is all I guess I'm saying. But I guess you're right. I guess it would depend on the circumstances of where I found the old rusty gun then. If it was a weird situation, or I don't know.
That's true.
What if we were just in G-Web's house and we just found like a cache of AKs? What would we do?
Well,
it happens all the time. It's when it happens, not if that happens.
Well, I just looked at the Wisconsin law for unclaimed property, and it's 5 years. You got to hold on. They have to hold on to it 5 years.
Not just a gun, but any property.
Yeah, not just a gun. That's any property.
So you have to hold it for someone for 5 years. They could take up to 5 years to claim their property, and then you can consider it yours?
Yep.
Is that children too?
Well, I'm definitely not taking in any elephants then. It seems like a long time to take care of an elephant for somebody to come along after 4.5 years and take it back.
They're very interesting during Christmas, though.
Yeah, that's just what the Wisconsin law says. Whether you hold on to it or if in this case, the gun, the police department holds on to it, it's 5 years, and then you can claim that property as your own.
So what about, how do you prevent your guns or firearms from being weapons, if you will, from being lost?
Whoa, did you just use the word weapon?
That's what I thought I sent to the podcast that we just had.
How do you prevent your gun? Attention to detail.
Well, one,
Detail.
make sure you keep track of like your serial numbers. Make sure you keep that on hand so you can at least report it as lost or stolen. That's what I would do anyway.
Honestly, you shouldn't ever be reporting your weapon lost. If you're reporting your weapon something that should be stolen, not lost, you should not be weapon your gun. Because stop with the weapon. You shouldn't be. Yeah, you shouldn't be reporting your gun lost. You shouldn't be losing your gun. It's unacceptable.
Well, you shouldn't, but stuff does happen, and I wish we had Nathan in the chat here tonight, but we don't. Nathan knows an example. He set his little whatever kind of case on top of his car and drove off with it, and he was driving back, and he says, from wherever he was, he said, "Oh, that looks like what I keep my gun in," and pulls over and picks it up. Mistakes like that do happen.
Yeah, definitely. I have left stuff, firearms, when we were hunting. I had to go back and get them. I mean, that's why I was using that example.
Yeah, my dad lost a .22 revolver with full custom grips, like turquoise and silverwork and everything. He was sleeping. Basically, they went to a swap meet, and it was a drive-in movie theater, and you have to park in line for the swap meet the night before. He was sleeping out in a sleeping bag on the ground because they had a VW van, and we were all sleeping in the van. He put his .22 under his pillow, and when he jumped up he woke up late. Like when he jumped up to jump in the van and move up the line, he left the .22 on the ground and remembered it 10 minutes later, came back, and it was gone. It does happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people leave rifles at the shooting range, at the rifle range. You go over there, like, some range master about whose rifle is this? And we're all looking, well, shit, it's about to be mine.
Well, I actually had that happen too.
Got asked 3 times.
Yeah, somebody left their gun case. I didn't open the gun case. It was in a couple benches down from where I was setting up, and I noticed that it was on the ground next to the bench. And
hey, Court, all you have to do is say
that's cool. There was nobody else there, so I said somebody must have forgotten their gun bag or something.
I don't think you know the rule.
I took it. I picked it up. I never opened it up. I picked it up, and I'm like, I put it next to my bench, and then I continued my thing, and I think within an hour of me doing that, it says the range almost all day, but an hour of me grabbing it and putting it next to my bench, somebody came back and said, did you see any gun cases around here? And I went, yeah, I grabbed it and put it over here, because other people had come and gone while I was still there.
Did they walk up to your bench staring at it, like, have you seen any gun cases around here?
No, actually, they came up from the other way. They couldn't see because it was covered by my stuff.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, yeah, I did. And I just asked him, what is it? And he says, it's just my gun cleaning crap I forgot to bring back up. And it wasn't overly heavy, but it was just like a rifle case, but it was kind of lightish. So there was no gun in there. I never bothered opening it up, so it wasn't. I was gonna have to go and turn it into the stupid frickin' police department when I left the gun range.
Right. Say claim, it's yours. That's it. End of story.
Yeah, claim it.
Claim.
That's it. Claim.
No, I don't do it like that. It's just I gave it back to the person.
That was a Walking Dead.
There could have been a handgun in there. I don't know. It wasn't, as I said, it wasn't overly heavy. It was just a bunch of stuff. He didn't bother opening. He just picked it up and thanked me very much for holding it onto it for him and not.
Well, even if
feeling it.
It could be like Inky, where you find your own pistol that you didn't even know you lost.
Well, even if you find
Yankee finds pistols that he thought he lost by finding them in his gun case. Oh, I forgot that.
Even if you find a gun totally legit and you decide to keep it, whoever had it or whoever lost could report it stolen. And if by chance you ever go to sell that gun or whatever, registered as stolen, you're in deep shit.
That's a great point. So speaking on that, maybe I don't want to interrupt, but maybe we can come back to: is there a list that someone can check? Sorry, Diana, go ahead.
Like a list on what? Stolen guns or lost guns?
I've never really found, and I don't know if there should be, but maybe there should be, maybe there shouldn't be a list of stolen guns from the whole world.
There is one. If you look it up
locally.
But
they exist, but is there one?
Yeah. Oh no.
Okay. I know certain states and certain counties or cities have their own lost and stolen things. I think Florida has a thing because I was trying to buy this gun one time and I wanted to check the serial numbers before I got it, and I was googling, how to see if a gun's been stolen or lost using crime, whatever. I think one thing popped up where it's like Florida, and you can enter the serial number, and it'll tell you, if it's been reported. But that's like the only one I found that was like done by like a government system. Anything else is like little personal online things where people actually have to come in themselves and write their own information.
I personally don't really trust the idea of a giant a stolen gun registry for the concept of what Stone Guy said, which is, the positive side. I think people could use that or abuse that real easily.
Right.
And I don't want to get into how you could abuse one, but I think your mind can go crazy thinking of ways that if there was a list of all the stolen guns or something. Plus, I just hate the idea of a list of guns. Everything about that makes me not like it.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, you got a copy of your 4473, whatever. I know what it's called, 44. 50,
well, no, number one, we don't have a copy.
4473. That's right.
You don't get a copy of it. You're not allowed to have a copy of it. For one, you can't ask for one. In other words, they won't give it to you. And I don't think that we need to have papers. Is that your gun? Let me see its papers.
Right.
What you mean? You do get a copy with your handgun, right?
No.
If you are, then the FFL is going to get in trouble.
Now the FFL is required to keep a copy.
But they don't keep a copy of an FF4473. No.
It's not
a receipt for your gun.
Okay, what is the proof?
You get a receipt. You get a receipt or a copy that you bought that gun with a serial number, but you don't get a copy of the 4473.
Now the FFL is required to keep your 4473 infinitely, right?
20
years.
20 yeah.
It's called different things. Sometimes it's called a blue book. Sometimes it's just simply called an inventory list. But
are you talking about the log book from the FFL?
From what your gun shop or your FFL dealer is required to keep from.
Well, they have a bound book, which is a official term or whatever, which is just a listing of all their 4473 index, if you will. But the 44.3s also need to retain in the premises for 20 years.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what I'm referring to.
But almost, you are buying something that's of value with a serial number from a merchant. So for tax reasons and for whatever reasons, just good, responsible reasons, you are going to get a receipt with all that information on it.
No, you're right. In Maryland, with handguns, since they're regulated, they give you a copy of your 77R-2. Which is 77R, which is the request. Well, it's the application to purchase a regulated firearm. That's what I'm talking about. They give us these pink copies.
No, see, we're not from that communist state, so we don't have to do all that.
Yeah, but because with long guns, they don't give you any fucking thing. That's why when I first bought when I recently bought that 1022, I was like, I called I didn't get any copies of my paperwork, and they were like, you don't get it with a rifle because it's not regulated.
Who's messing with papers or something?
At least I'm just going to shuffle some papers here on my mic while I'm not talking. So I was going to bring up, since we were kind of talking about, Cork had talked about misplacing the firearm at the range or whatever. I used to volunteer for a long time at the county range out here, and more than once, but one time in particular, 1022, right, a Ruger 1022. Fairly common firearm. More than, and the way our range works is you can shoot at the bench, but there's only limited room on the bench. So if people bring out 2 or 3 rifles, a lot of times they'll put their rifles back behind the seating area where there's some vertical rifle racks. So the guy put his 1022 back there, I guess, and then somebody else didn't realize but thought it was their 1022, I guess, put it in their bag and walked away, and then left with it, and then. It's like I say, it's happened more than once. It happens quite a bit, actually, because unless you modify your firearms, they're identical to anybody else who didn't modify their firearm. So when that happens, usually people figured it out before they got all packed up and left, but this guy actually left. He drove away. And the guy whose gun got stolen, quote unquote, accidentally taken, I'm going to say, he freaked out, like more than anybody I can remember. And I was kind of feeling bad because we were almost positive that it wasn't done with malice. It just happened accidentally. But that guy just freaked out, and it was going to be a black eye on the range, to have a whole, idea of people stealing or whatever, that maybe we're not running it right or whatever, and it's just, nobody wants to have negative stuff happening, but luckily the guy didn't file it, or maybe he did, I don't even remember, but I do know that the next weekend, or the next, week later, the person who had brought it in, and they could not have been more embarrassed and sorry, and like they didn't know what to do, but the range doesn't have telephone number during the week when it's not open, so there's not much they could have done, so they had done what they could, contacted the county and stuff, but this person was just, distraught that this had happened. They didn't intend it. And, just a little story. I don't know if it has a meaning or anything, but just to take away from it that's probably a good idea to at least mark your firearms. But that's one of the reasons I like modifying them. I like making my stuff green, putting green handguards on there. And a lot of times people look down on all that as being tactical or trying to be more than you are or whatever. People have problems with that. But by making it unique, it's more difficult for somebody to accidentally grab it.
Yeah, I modify everything I own on the outside. I do a lot of... I'm a big fan of that because there's no denying it once you do something like that.
You know what you should do, Huck, is put something silver on your Glock, maybe.
Exactly.
That would go along with some of the knives you make or whatever.
You haven't seen it then? You haven't seen my Glock?
You have a Glock?
Yeah, or were you just being sarcastic saying I should put silver on there? Because...
I'm just throwing you a low, underhanded softball.
Yeah, I pretty much put biohazards and skulls on just about everything I do. So.
Yeah, and I do think.
So if someone wasn't handy and they needed something like that done, I imagine they could contact someplace like ghosttownCustomKnives.com.
And I know a couple guys that do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not a great marketer.
We're kidding or whatever around a little bit, but honestly, I think that's worth mentioning, especially if anybody hasn't thought of that before. But it keeps somebody like Huck in business, or somebody that does stippling, or somebody that does painting. If Edge was paying attention, he might show his Glock that just got Cerakoted. That's Edge's chair. I don't think we get Edge anymore. But he had his Cerakoted. You're supporting somebody who's doing a garage business or a second job or a side job, and everybody wins then, right?
Exactly. No, what is that? Like Edge? Oh, he's not even there.
Edge just totally left us. Maybe everybody wins, but Edge.
Well, we all win since Edge isn't here, though.
So that's kind of a really good segue, G-Webs. I got a thing. I'm just getting ready to put it on eBay right now. It's a handmade, hand-stitched leather case for a Samsung Galaxy 4 or whatever. And this guy ordered it and is trying to haggle my buddy who's like struggling to start a leather business. He's trying to haggle him down to nothing. It's like he's in a pawn shop or something. And so we're putting it on eBay. And if anybody's interested, there's easy ways to contact me, email or Facebook or my gun channel's profile.
Yeah, that is very true. I think we're all fairly easy to get a hold of it some way or another through gun channels.
My phone number is 555. One of those.
You driving, Rob?
867-5309, something like that.
Yeah, all my information's on GhostTownCustomKnives.com, so it's pretty easy.
You did make a good point there about modifying the gun to make it your own, and I never really thought about it that way. To make it, identifiable.
Well, think about it, when the cowboys and stuff, they do stuff, Indians, whoever, Serbians, look at a Yugo AK. Most guys, when their thing is issued, and it's just one of a million copies of the same thing, if you don't do something in the heat of, I got to grab my rifle. It's nice to know which one's yours.
That is very true. I just never thought about it that way before, and that's actually a good suggestion.
It's the same as soldiers marking the Sharpie all over their helmets and the insides of their LBEs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Except for when you go one step further and make it a piece of trench art or something like that, it's even cooler. I'm always a big fan of that kind of stuff.
And what about stuff like retention lanyards or slings, I guess, for rifles or things like that? Does anybody use any of that kind of, like actually tethering it to yourself as an option? Or are you guys not hardcore operators enough? Not doing enough?
I'm kind of lost as to the topic here. Are you talking about slings or something further as far as retention goes?
We're talking about firearms being lost or stolen and retaining them just in general, I think. So I just brought up the concept of a retention lanyard, the little thing that goes to your belt, kind of like a trucker chain for your wallet, but for a firearm.
On some of my Glocks in the past, I've used a little pistol lanyard to attach them to my belt if I was like taking them camping or, you know, somewhere where I'm likely or potentially would fall down a big hill and it'd go rolling off, that sort of thing. But other than that, no. Of course, I use slings on rifles, but.
Well, I'll just throw in there, I have retention lanyards as well. I figure if something bad happens and it's, you know, the shit hits the fan type of scenario or whatever, you're not going to be able to go to the store and replace something. So, you know, the idea of having one of the, you know, that's what we're talking about, right? These like little things that Velcro attached to your belt, you know, with a sturdy foundation, and then they've got like a pretty heavy, like coiled section that's like a telephone cord or whatever, and then there's a little piece at the end that attaches to your firearm, and it's usually in that little hole behind the magazine well on a semi-auto, sort of like what the Mounties did back in the day, except the modern version. And it's used for like special ops guys when they're in a helicopter, like where it might fall out from just being in the close quarters, or maybe in a raft or something in the water. So it's also got like a little piece of it that's meant to break so that they don't get, you know, trapped or caught up on a helicopter or something and die. But it's strong enough that if you drop the thing, it's going to stick with you if you have to take a few steps or, you know, dodge out of behind cover. And, you know, they seem pretty, you know, tactical or whatever, or high speed, low drag. But what he just said, when you go out hunting and you're thinking about, or just camping or something, and you're just thinking about where your dog went or what kind of bird you just saw, and you don't realize that the pistol fell out of your holster because you were reaching for something, it's pretty nice to have it, you know, something actually tethering it to you.
Right. Hey, real quick, hey, Dan, I was trying to tell you, pull the boat out. You look like you was having a hard time.
Yeah.
Well, that bolt has good retention.
Yeah, I figured it out after I didn't get it the second time.
Well, what I was gonna say a minute ago, the reason I started with the pistol lanyard is one time I lost my Glock after rolling down like a 30-foot embankment while we were camping and doing a little hiking. And after that, I decided I needed something for out in the woods to be able to hopefully find it, because I looked for that thing forever and finally found it. So,
well, that makes sense for, you know, like for situations like that. I just have trouble seeing that in an EDC situation where if you really do need to get that.
I don't wear a lanyard for anything EDC, but I'm just talking for specific things where I know I'm likely to, you know, be up in the mountains or to be, you know, on unstable ground or something like that.
What do we call those things?
Austere conditions, right? Like not other than usual conditions.
One
also,
really cool.
Go ahead. Sorry. You go ahead, man.
Lanyards.
One really cool thing you can do with just about anything, whether it's a pen or a flashlight or an extra magazine or anything, is take a little piece of Kydex and heat it up and fold it around it, poke a little hole and put a piece of paracord through it, and then you've got a lanyard. You can wrap that lanyard around your belt and drop it in a pocket. You can wrap it around like the frame of your backpack and put it in the backpack pockets. So anything that you have any chance of losing, I would suggest putting a little 35-cent piece of Kydex around it.
I don't got time to make all that, but I do have time to go online and order it somewhere. There was someplace that made it.
Exactly. And
wait, I know a website.
The type of lanyard that you would use for that, what do they call it if someone wanted to go online and order one?
Oh, you're talking about for a pistol?
Or a rifle.
Well, they're different. I mean, the pistol one is specific. It's called a retention lanyard.
Okay.
The good ones, or the decent ones, are made by, like, I think Gemtech makes one.
Okay. But I guess maybe retention lanyard is the name of it. Is if somebody wanted to Google it or go to their favorite, you know, Brownells or whatever, what would they type in the search?
Yeah, retention lanyard.
Well, speaking along the same line of like retention and lanyards, I'll just say when I was a teenager, I used to ride dirt bikes and four-wheelers a lot, and I probably got about a dozen lost wallets sitting in the woods up near my dad's old place before I finally realized I could get one of those little wallets with the chains on them so that I look like a douchebag running around. But those things came in handy a lot. after I started using them. So
it's not like a lot of pistols have the old loop on them. You got to get the old Berettas or the, like it's fairly specific, and they come. Most of them have that little, I don't call it an alligator clip, a little spring hook on them, so they're not like universal.
A lot of your modern guns that would be something along the lines of a duty pistol actually have a place for a lanyard nowadays.
Oh yeah, recessed in there.
Yeah, it's required in most
military.
Well, military and like SWAT or special units and law enforcement, they require you have some kind of retention on your.
They had one, but
your firearm.
Got rid of it. Won it and a lot of stuff. It had like a Velcro thing you could wear it around your belt, or. Oh, you're right. It had like a telephone cord thing on it.
A very decent but inexpensive pistol lanyard, Blackhawk makes one that's not terrible.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's fairly well priced. I think they're like $15-20.
Yeah, that's the one I had.
I think that one manufacturer makes a lot of stuff for cops for their duty belts called Gould and something.
I don't know. Bianchi is a big one.
Or something like that. I know G&G.
Yeah, they're a little pricey, but they're supposed to be good stuff.
I've had a few of their holsters, but that's all I've ever had from that company, so I can't really speak on it.
I prefer the Gemtech one because it's made by a good company, made here in the United States. And here's the Blackhawk version. You can compare them if you want. So, starting with where you put it on your belt, so you can get that in frame. Gemtech has this deal here with a clip. So an ITW Fastex clip to get it on and off your belt with US made nylon. Another Fastex clip, so if you don't want the retention lanyard on at all, you can leave this part, this anchor on your belt, put that in. Then you've got made in USA. Then you've got the plastic or whatever this rubbery material is. Then you've got the breakaway part, which is designed to break free so you don't like die from this thing being stuck on a rudder of a helicopter.
That makes sense.
Then you've got the Blackhawk kind, which doesn't say where it's made. I'll just leave it at that. It's got Velcro here. It doesn't come apart here, so it's either on your belt or it's not. And when you take it on and off your belt, you're killing Chinese Velcro, which we all know how many times that has a chance to open up. Look at the difference in lanyards. Look at the difference in down here. This is just metal with some heat shrink on it. This is built for the task, probably by ITW. And then you've got one that will stick on you, and you've got one that will break free. So there's differences between the $8 one and the $20 one, and now you've seen them.
Pull it, break it away, and how much force does it take?
Well, it would break it. So I'm not going to break.
Break. Oh, okay.
Break. It would literally break. So this is how you attach it to something like a Glock.
Just kill the cat.
Right.
That's now the Burke's paying attention.
So you just would bring this guy.
Yeah, lanyards are a big deal in the military. You have to have a lanyard. I know all about it.
Look at that.
Bring this
you
thing
have a hard
through.
time fitting that Blackhawk one even in there.
I don't know how the Blackhawk one's supposed to attach necessarily either.
Not on that, yeah.
But that's how you would attach it to a pistol. So now there's no attachment point here. That can't come out. This can't come out, right, except for the break-free part. But you can take this off your belt, so you can leave your anchor on your belt, and you can take the gun free if you needed to disarm or something.
Yeah, they're definitely spend the $20. I'm just gonna say that, just in case anybody was wondering. I just looked at them and for $12 difference, get the $20 one.
And what people a lot of times forget is if you buy something of quality, you will only buy one. You'll never need to buy another one.
We're okay. I think we know that. Chris isn't in here, is he? He got to gear up to get that.
Oh, my good guy.
I was actually putting that in the internal. I wasn't going to call them out on air like six string.
I just didn't.
Couldn't help yourself.
What is that you got on G-Webs on that AR magazine? On the side of the magazine, what is that? Is that like a
spare mag holder, my friend?
Okay, mag holder. Okay.
You're not that tactical now, are you, Edge?
Jesus, Edge.
No, I just don't need more than 30 rounds. You know, that's the way I roll.
Did Edge just say we're only allowed to have 20 rounds?
Yeah, I don't need more than 30 rounds. So.
No man needs more than 5.
That's right.
That's looking pretty sweet, my friend.
I will say that the Black Hawk package is printed in the USA. I got one for it.
There you go.
But to be fair, it was $8. That's the only reason I have it. I make fun of it because it cost me $8, so
yeah.
I didn't spend a lot on it.
Alright, someone gave me one of those, Joe Tactical, whatever. Never had a use.
So how many Uncle Mike's holsters do you have? Because they're like $8.
I don't think he's going to admit that.
No, I'm no better than anybody else. I started out buying Uncle Mike's and whatever was cheap at gun shows, but that's why I try to make gun, videos and stuff for people, is so that they don't have to repeat our mistakes, right? All we can do is offer our opinion. If people don't want to take it, follow my path. I mean, waste a bunch of money.
Did Big Guy join us? You said something about learning from your mistakes.
Or no.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. That was like cork dying off.
Yep. Some people, I'm not calling anybody out, some people will spend $8 10 times when they could have spent $20 once. Nothing wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know anybody like that.
I've got one of those foam, like Uncle Mike's, but I don't want to say foam. It's more nylon and cushy, but it has a snap across the top. It's got a belt. You know, it's good for universal. If I had to throw it to someone and say, "Look here, I'm sure your gun will fit in that."
To be fair, people like that have usually only been into guns for a couple of years.
Well, it's hard, if someone doesn't realize, they don't understand when you have a quality item in your hand or in possession, how it changes your whole outlook on that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like when somebody's only been into guns for a couple of years, then that's kind of expected of them. I mean,
well, I did my fair share of research before I even got a holster, trying to figure out what the best one was, where I wouldn't be, buying one and then finding out that it's a piece of crap and falling apart on me. When I had my concealed carry, and I couldn't carry for a few weeks because I didn't have my holster. Once I had to wait for it to deliver. But I was sure glad I spent the money I did on it instead of, just going out with the cheapest one I could find.
These are good times too. I mean, it wasn't but 5 years ago that it was not as easy. You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I got a crossbreed or a Minotaur or whatever whatever those are for inside the waistband, and then you did, yeah, so it was kind of not as obvious as now.
I heard that.
Heard what?
Trying to make a point 6 string?
I didn't even know. What did you say?
The answer, G-Web's yes.
Okay. And then what about magazines? We talked about guns, but I mean, I don't even hardly own magazines that aren't marked somehow so that I can.
Oh yeah, I mark all my magazines. Not only to keep up with to market personal property, but you should always mark your magazines in case you have a malfunction or an issue. Yeah. You know which magazine screwed up.
Oh, that's a great point, yeah.
All my AR mags and AK mags are marked, but not my pistol ones.
Yeah, I mark my magazines with a little silver paint marker.
Yeah, I have a white Sharpie, and I've started marking some of them, but some of them I always want to leave unmarked.
I went top shelf with my marking. I use masking tape and a pen.
Yeah.
No one has
masking tape and a pen works.
And a number one of them is none of my shit. And when it wears off, I just put another piece of tape on there.
I'll put it like this: on guns that I have multiple magazines for, whenever I start having malfunctions that I can blame, that I can like pretty much almost certainly know it's the magazine, I just scrap the magazine and get a new one. Or replace whatever part on it's screwing up, if it's like a spring or a follower or whatever. But
well, that's the thing too. If you do have a malfunction for a magazine, it's like, whoa, that at that particular time, I will probably set it aside. Period. And I know it's easy to get mixed up. You just throw them all back in the range bag, and you're like, what the hell run was it? But I'd find a way to identify it, because if it's happening once, I'm gonna keep an eye on that mag.
Don't you try to recreate it with that mag before you just toss it aside, just to verify or troubleshoot what's going on?
I would.
I mean, because once I'm home, I can't figure out what's going on with it.
Could be the ammo. You want to shoot different ammo through it for it also, and depending on what's wrong.
Just put a few rounds in it and see what the deal is. So when you get home, you know, should I toss it, or should I just order a new spring, or do I need a new follower, or whatever.
To go to Michael's, what do you got?
Who?
So,
you, the old craft shop.
Oh, this is just where I keep my cleaning supplies in, my cleaning bag. The Fireman Fleet bag.
And that's a Fireman Fleet.
Yes.
Lane's Fireman Fleet bag.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
That's not here.
I was just going to say, we're talking about...
Yeah, if you can go to Fireman Fleet, it's okay.
If I can interrupt your Fireman Fleet discussion.
Yes.
We were talking about modifying firearms, but you're not restricted to having to modify a firearm. If you bought one that you like because you like it, you can put hidden marks, underneath the grip panel or inside the mag well. I guess that's the best place. But there's places you can put marks that would be identifiable that aren't visible, that don't require modification or changing the outside appearance.
That is very true, and that's what I was thinking about with mine. Like, I got these removable grip panels, and I could just take and slide them off and put my name or something there, or some sort of marking that I could just say, hey, tell if it's our last cylinder that has these markings on the inside.
On my Metgar XD Slam, I did use like crayon, to fill in like the words Metgar and stuff. So no one else has done that I'm aware of around here. So that's one way to identify.
If you really want to get hardcore about it, I actually seen a gentleman's pistol. It was a Series 70 Colt 1911. When we took it apart and was cleaning it, he had his initials engraved inside the frame, or the lower frame of the pistol, on the inner parts where the slide rides, or where the spring rides against it, and on the slide. And it was just barely engraved, very thinly. But it was in there. So.
I know Cork was curious, and it does work as a kit and read tension lanyard as well. So
look at that, that's
dual
great.
purpose.
Yeah, but you're gonna ruin your $20 one, especially if he gets his little teeth in there.
No, that's totally true. It is probably going to ruin it, but I will quickly take it off now that I've made my joke.
I'd be using the $8 one if I were you, G-Whips.
Put a little milk ring
What?
on the
This
end
cat
there.
don't work with Blackhawk. Are you kidding me? You're lucky he's chewing on it. He wouldn't even like to chew on it. He needs legit shit.
My cat likes quality guns and parts.
Well, Edge brought his puppy in, so on that note, I think we should wrap this up right quick, because we don't want to let some
I was
just
going to say that we should at least stop for this right now. If anybody would prefer, I can run the general chat, or if somebody else wants to run the general chat, they can. So speak up real quick if anybody on the panel wants to do that. Otherwise,
was your game over?
no.
We're just trying to wrap it up so that we can make it into a podcast and package it as a actual retention show or find lost recovery type of show, as opposed to turning it into a 3-hour marathon session.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to do too.
Restart it.
All right, guys. Well, I will restart a new chat on this channel. So just stay tuned over at Gun Channels, or if you're watching on YouTube, my channel. So we'll see you in just a little bit.
I need to get more marshmallows for this kitten too, so he runs all around and out cutes that.